Even if you don't know this theme music, you can guess what it represents. This piece of music accomplishes to express what sometimes the whole screenplay of a movie failed to deliver. Suspense. This is Boris, welcome to Movie Messenger. This is a special video dedicated to great John Carpenter. Apart from being the coolest guy you'll know, he's one of the greatest filmmakers ever. He was an indie filmmaker even before that concept existed in the mainstream consciousness.
Mr. John Carpenter, someone who was very independent-minded and had an independent spirit early on and inspired a lot of independent filmmakers, myself included.
He's a writer, filmmaker, composer who I feel doesn't get referenced enough, so I wanted to make a video about why I have such admiration for John Carpenter. If you are a wannabe filmmaker geek who doesn't know enough to actually become one, like me, you might be inspired by Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith. Well, John Carpenter was the one who inspired these guys from the 90s indie filmmakers pool. His indie spirit comes from the fact that in most of his movies, he writes, directs, edits and scores by himself. Which brings me in a way to my first point, his versatility. I always admire directors who are able to make different kinds of movies and give us their take in those genres. John Carpenter has done science fiction, action, romance, drama, comedy, horror, and each of those genres, even though at the time of the release, all of these movies didn't have the commercial and critical success, he has gained the highest respect from fans and movie makers for his amazing legacy. In order to leave a personal artistic imprint on your work with genres which existed long time before you and will exist after you, you have to have a unique vision of the craft. You have to experience his movies by yourself, but what I can say is that his take was so cool that he even inspired people outside of the film industry, like video games such as Mortal Kombat, Metal Gear Solid to my knowledge. His movie They Live was a satire on Reaganomics and inspired street artist Shepard Fairey to create Obey. Michael Jackson didn't invent the moonwalk, but he popularized it. In the same way, I don't think John Carpenter has invented slasher genre, but he gave it credence with Halloween. John Carpenter is a huge fan of horror. He grew up watching horror films and reading horror comics.
I thought, man, but that's cool. I want to see a little bit more of that.
Let me see you as you really are.
Was especially attracted to the kind of horror sci-fi world. That was really interesting to me. DC Comics was a big influence on me. Weird Science, yeah, things like that. Tales from the Crypt, I love that kind of stuff.
John and I were probably, among the hundreds or thousands of people that were under the bedspread with a flashlight because they weren't allowed in the house. I don't know what it was like in Kentucky, but I grew up in the Bronx in a Catholic family, and I had to sneak all that stuff.
There's a reason he's known for his horror films. Are you ready? He has made the following movies: Halloween, The Fog, Christine, considered as one of the best adaptations of a Stephen King novel, The Thing, the best readaptation of all time, Vampires, Ghosts of Mars, Prince of Darkness, Village of the Damned, The Ward. Even when he wasn't directing horror films, he incorporated elements of it. I don't want to say that what he does is simple. I'm no musician and I can't play any instruments, but I admire immensely those who compose music, especially for movies. But I feel that a lot of composers fall in the trap of becoming too repetitive and don't stand out as unique as John Carpenter does. His background scores accomplish greatness with catchy beats. They have a soul which builds up into something epic. I mean, he's the one who introduced me to what synthesizers even mean. Simplicity at its best. Needless to say, he has inspired other composers. Here is Christopher Drake, a composer well known for scoring animated movies based on DC Comics characters, and Kevin Smith, writer, filmmaker, geeking out about John Carpenter.
Lands in the windshield and the crooks, and they're in, and that's like the full-on like Escape from New York Halloween thing.
Like while they're waiting for him in the darkness,
and it's tension, right?
Yes, and you're hearing the synth notes from my childhood. That's why I literally had to look at the box to be like, did John Carpenter score this? Did they pull John Carpenter in to score this? That'd be amazing.
And I will say, you know, I'll go on record again. It's foolish for anybody to take credit for that. It's absolutely John Carpenter influenced that, and absolutely it was all those years.
He's good, right? He's legit.
You know, the thing with
you're a legit composer now. Where does he stand?
Well, I think Carpenter gets a lot. He
don't get enough credit.
He doesn't get a lot of credit because, again, I think people look down on the fact of the technology. It's kind of like people that go, "Oh, old Star Trek's cheesy, man," because they didn't have the special effects like, you know, Star Wars. Fuck Star Trek, you know. Right. And I go, "Well, I love it, warts and all. It's the story. It's there. It's, you know, it's the." Some people can't watch Ray Harryhausen because they can't get past stop motion. It's the same thing with synths, though. I think some people can't get it's antiquated or it doesn't sound modern enough. But it's funny because music is always cyclical. Like you'll have like when we were kids, it was the 80s. It was that symphonic John Williams sound. And now we're in a time now in the 21st century. It's like that's old, man. We want minimalism. We want electronic stuff, and that's become hip.
He inspires me because he's able to take a genre he's a fan of and make it his own. For example, Big Trouble in Little China is clearly a homage to the Hong Kong martial arts films. John Carpenter is a fanboy. He's one of us. He loves movies, obviously. He loves music, video games, comics, making him the coolest filmmaker you want to have drinks with. For sure, there's a lot more to him than meets the eye, but this is my love letter to John Carpenter.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Undeniably, 100% badass. Keep on rocking, sir.